I would like to share some teachings to provide an opportunity for all of us to attain enlightenment swiftly. The goal of Buddhism, the essence of the teachings, and the heart of the Buddha's message. The sole goal of our Buddha, the fully enlightened one, is to guide all sentient beings to nirvana, freeing them from the cycle of birth and death in this very lifetime. The Buddha does not wish for us to attain enlightenment in future lives. Rather, he teaches us to achieve it in this present moment. Right here and now, he directs us to understand the Dharma as it is in the present, not in the past or future. His teachings focus on realizing enlightenment in the now. We are all capable of attaining this realization. We simply need to earnestly aspire to achieve it. We must have the desire. No one can lead us to enlightenment if we do not wish for it. If we do not intend to go, no one can take us there. We need to genuinely desire it. Remember, when we aspire to attain enlightenment and escape the cycle of birth and death, our minds must be set correctly. When our intentions are aligned, the power of the mind becomes immense, drawing those with spiritual power to teach us. This creates the conditions for us to encounter wise teachers who can guide us to enlightenment. The natural law of every mind operates in this way. We can call it the law of the universe. It reflects the nature of our minds, which hold great power. Whatever we desire or wish to become can be achieved. If we wish to be born, we will be. If we do not want to be born, we will not. If we want to suffer, we will. If we wish to be free from suffering, we can be free. If we want to gain insight into the Dharma, we will attain that understanding. If we prefer ignorance, we will remain ignorant. Everything depends on the mind. If one desires to go to hell, they can go. If one wants to dwell in heaven, which is called sukha, they can. There are also realms of suffering, dukkha. We can choose to go to heaven or to the Brahma realms. We can attain anything we desire. Because everything is fundamentally rooted in the mind, we have all made our choices. When I speak about this, I feel like crying. We have chosen our paths. I remember saying this back when I was a layperson living with a woman before becoming a monk. I often express this. We have all chosen our own paths. Once we make a choice, we must accept the consequences of that choice. We will undoubtedly encounter the results of our decisions, and we have chosen to be as we are. Most beings choose to suffer. We create the conditions for our own suffering. This leads to an amplification of suffering that is endless, with no conclusion in sight. We have constructed all of this ourselves. We may never fully comprehend this matter. It makes me want to cry. This is the law of karma, the law of samsara, in which beings cycle through birth and death, referred to as the world of karma. In truth, I hesitate to even use the term law of karma, as it does not exist as a concrete entity. The term karma does not exist as a concrete entity. Rather, it reflects the law of ignorance and the workings of the mind as they are. Whenever the mind is ignorant and entangled in its own fabrications, that is when countless stories and events arise. We will face tests in every aspect of life, experiencing suffering to the fullest. We may be born disabled, born in difficult circumstances, born into debt, born wealthy, born with only hatred from others, or born with love surrounding us. Some may die just days after birth. We come into this world to grow old, to suffer, and to die. All of this is a result of choices we have made, often without realizing that we have made them. Let us envision the Buddha residing in nirvana, not in some distant realm, but within our own minds. The Arahants are present here too, observing the world. The Buddha knows each of us intimately. There is no one whose essence escapes his awareness. He comprehends all, and no one can evade the path of the Buddha's mind. He is always with us, eternally present. Yet we often do not recognize him. Meanwhile, the Buddha and Arahants gaze upon all sentient beings with compassion, always feeling deep sorrow. When I go on alms rounds and see people laughing, playing, or making merit by offering food, it strikes me how their outward appearances can be so polished and cheerful, yet inside there is so much darkness and suffering. It's truly heartbreaking. We as sentient beings have made our own choices. No one has chosen for us. The Buddha feels profound compassion for us. His great mercy wishes for us to be free from suffering and to find happiness. He deeply cares for us with boundless kindness and compassion. For me, when I began to understand the Dhamma and gained insight, it felt truly wondrous. In the beginning, I thought it was extraordinary because I had never experienced anything like it before. While others might find it amazing, for me it was indeed remarkable, yet it didn't feel particularly special. This is because I had always held on to the principle of anatta, non-self, which made me less attached to the idea of these experiences being something magnificent or exceptional. Thus, I didn't get caught up in those notions too much. When I gained understanding of the Dhamma, I couldn't help but cry for all of you. I would see people dressed in white or yellow robes, coming to the temple to offer alms, and it moved me deeply. I thought, "Oh humanity, how can we help each other?" I wondered how people could truly understand and find a way to escape the cycle of birth and death. It seems so simple, yet incredibly difficult, an astonishing paradox. Practicing the Dhamma and achieving enlightenment is incredibly easy, yet it feels immensely hard. When we talk about not being born, the phrase not being born refers specifically to the mind not being born. It signifies a state where the mind is free from the cycles of craving and attachment, transcending the ordinary sense of self. This realization allows one to experience a profound clarity, free from the suffering that comes from identification and clinging. In this state, the mind understands its true nature, which is not bound by the concepts of birth or death. The key to realization is that the mind can become aware of this truth. That awareness, where the mind recognizes this state, is what we call enlightenment. In that moment, there is no sense of self, no attachment, no grasping. It's a profound realization that transcends all notions of existence and non-existence. Our sense of self is merely a construct, a manifestation of the ignorance of the mind. We communicate using conventional language, yet we often get caught up in these conventions. The Buddha used this same conventional language to teach us in a world built on such constructs. Through this, we can begin to understand what is ultimately beyond words, our own minds. Our true nature is extraordinary, magnificent, and filled with potential. The mind embodies mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. All of this is inherently present within us. We simply need to draw it out and engage with it. Recognizing and understanding this nature is key. It's similar to our eyes. We use them to see everything around us, yet we rarely take the time to truly see our own eyes. Understanding this profound reality is crucial to awakening. This is the essence of ignorance. We possess a mind, yet we rarely pay attention to it. Instead, we focus on the body and pursue everything to fulfill its desires. In reality, the body doesn't crave. It's the mind that does. This craving of the mind is referred to as mental forma. The true mind, at its core, is devoid of any inherent qualities or identities. It is not anything specific. When I realized this, I cried. I wondered how to help the world, how to assist humanity and all beings, as I saw so many descending into suffering. The Buddha felt deep compassion, realizing the challenge of conveying what many do not understand. After attaining enlightenment, he spent 7 days contemplating how to teach the Dhamma effectively, not by writing down texts, but by expressing the profound truths from his heart. The entire forest of leaves symbolizes the vast expanse of knowledge. Each leaf represents different aspects of understanding, but you don't need to know them all. Just knowing the single leaf in your hand is enough. By understanding that one leaf, you grasp the essence of the entire forest. The principles are fundamentally the same. Just as a leaf is made up of veins and fibers, all leaves share this essence. Ultimately, they all wither and dissolve in the same way. The Buddha taught this simple principle so that we could attain enlightenment easily. When we listen and understand, realization can occur. If someone doesn't grasp it the first time, it's okay. There's always another opportunity to listen again. The essence of the teaching is that nothing has a permanent, fixed self. Staying present and aware is key. Just by knowing this, the forces of delusion cannot find you. Understanding this can lead to a profound awakening, evoking deep emotions and a sense of clarity. This is the essence of enlightenment, a spacious, illuminated mind that recognizes the true nature of reality. The first group of lotus can achieve enlightenment with just a brief listening, sometimes in as little as 10 seconds. For second group of lotus, it might take more time and explanation, requiring an hour or even 2 to grasp the same concepts. The third group requires more than just a couple of hours to understand. They may struggle to grasp the teachings fully. Many of us fall into this category, needing to listen repeatedly to truly absorb the Dhamma. We need to continue listening, and many people find that after listening to the teaching for an extended time, sometimes 4 hours, they gain insight, experiencing a profound shift in their understanding. This can lead to moments where the worldly elements dissolve, revealing deeper truths. However, even within the third group, there are various levels of understanding. Some may reach significant insight in a short time, while others require more time and repeated exposure to the teachings. For instance, some people may listen for just 7 days and find clarity, while others take longer, gradually absorbing the teachings over months. In the third group, understanding accumulates slowly, 1%, 2%, and so on, until they reach a deeper comprehension. The essence of the Dhamma resides within the mind itself, not in any written texts. If it were solely in texts, the Buddha could have simply written them down and shared them, allowing everyone to awaken immediately. The Dhamma is not just intellectual knowledge, it is a realization that transcends conventional understanding. It is rooted in the experience of enlightenment, which is beyond mere concepts. True understanding comes from within, through the direct experience of the mind and its nature. The Dhamma is fundamentally about the mind. All teachings and truths converge in the mind. They are not found in written texts or external sources. The understanding of the Dhamma comes from direct experience and awareness of our own mind. It emphasizes that true wisdom lies within us, accessible through introspection and realization, rather than through merely studying texts. The teachings guide us to explore our inner nature and recognize the truths that reside there. The Dharma is not found in texts. It is the knowledge of the Arahants, not that of ordinary people. Using the mind and thought to understand something beyond conventional understanding, is impossible. When people become attached to texts, they end up being prideful and misguided, often leading themselves into suffering. Those who teach can unintentionally lead others astray, resulting in widespread ignorance. Ultimately, we all become blinded by our own misunderstandings. Not to blame anyone, but to share this observation. I will guide you out of this system, teaching you in the way the Buddha taught, simple and not gradual. If I were to teach the Dharma slowly, could I do it? Yes, I could. In the past, I did use that same worldly method. But once I understood the Dharma, it was heartbreaking. I cried, feeling ashamed of my ignorance. I wondered why I was so foolish and felt deep compassion for all living beings. Is it really just this simple? How can humanity possibly understand? Dharma is anatta. There is no self or permanent identity. The mind is inherently empty and pure, already embodying nirvana. However, it becomes entangled in the dream of the conditioned world, creating stories and attachments. This dream leads to the illusion that this is our body and our identity. This describes the nature of the mind, which is inherently pure and functions in a pristine way. We must not seek anything from the mind. Instead, we should recognize and accept the truth. We need to see the mind's true purity. It is genuinely clear, radiant and luminous, shining brightly to the edges of the universe. When we talk about forgetting, it's not really forgetting. It's just the natural functioning of the mind. The mind is already nirvana. It dreams of having a body. The mind is inherently empty, and it dreams, meaning it mistakenly identifies itself with the conditioned. This happens every single moment. We embody this state continuously, yet we fail to recognize what is known as nirvana, that pure emptiness and natural state of the mind. We already possess this nature, but instead of seeing it, we continue to dream. Even when we briefly awaken to this reality, we quickly fall back into dreaming again. It's as if we wake up for a moment, but without truly opening our eyes, we slip back into sleep and dreaming. We never fully awaken. The Buddha teaches us to awaken. If we simply open our eyes and realize we're awake, we can rise from our sleep. That is the essence of enlightenment. Everything that happens in our dreams is just that, a dream. It holds no true substance and is impermanent, anatta. The mind is beyond gender. It has never been a person or an animal. It has never been born into the cycle of samsara in the three realms. We are simply in a dream, but there's no need to worry. We will all surely transcend the cycle of samsara, 100%. We just need to set our intention not to be reborn and engage deeply with these teachings. Listen to my recordings often and strive to understand. We must recognize the value of awakening to the truth through the study of Buddhism. In this era, many have attained enlightenment and walk among us, yet we often fail to recognize them. Some people even ridicule these individuals, leading to a kind of blindness. For some, this results in mental disturbances or even madness. You can observe those who suffer from brain-related issues. These are often people who have dismissed the teachings. The severity of their conditions varies depending on how much they have ridiculed those who have attained enlightenment at each of the 4 stages. Each stage carries its own significance, and the consequences of dismissing these realizations can manifest differently in individuals. My teachings will always point to anatta, the concept of non-self. It's essential to understand that what I'm discussing relates to anatta, which means there is no true self. This encompasses everything. Even the language I'm using right now is merely conventional. It doesn't possess true substance. I'm borrowing the language of the human world to help others comprehend. True nature transcends convention. It has no language and exists in a state of liberation. Our true nature is our mind. It is liberated, unconditioned, and free of constructs. What I'm saying now is merely a conventional expression to help the world understand our inherent nature. We already possess this nature. We just need to awaken it. Right now, we are asleep, dreaming that we have bodies, that we are monks or lay people, that we are male or female, and that we inhabit this world. We dream of earth, water, air, and fire. All of this, our experiences of discussing and listening to Dharma, is just a dream. If you can't grasp this, I don't know how else to express it. It's straightforward and clear. I teach without an inherent self and have always done so. Otherwise, we could never attain enlightenment. Enlightenment is about seeing everything as anatta, without true self, without anything at all. All forms of identity and existence are part of this dream. When we finally wake up and open our eyes and rise from our sleep, that's when it all concludes. After that moment, we will understand that nothing truly exists as a self. This is akin to what the ancient teachers said. When one truly attains enlightenment, the entire universe shatters, dissolving into nothingness. Everywhere you look, it's all gone, completely empty. Nothing remains. We've heard about these experiences, right? This is the essence of anatta. Nothing exists in a substantial way. Even our own identity is not real. This body, the words I'm speaking now, they too lack true existence. They are anatta. The world often teaches in a way that emphasizes individuality and self, which I call slow teaching. This method is limited. While the Buddha spoke briefly and many attained enlightenment, today's teachings typically don't lead to immediate realization. Instead, they focus on conventional practices and identities. For instance, people might say, we are men or women. We should ordain to observe precepts and accumulate merit. This creates a sense of separation and a belief that enlightenment is unattainable for most. Teachings become filled with conventions and identities, how many steps to walk, what rituals to perform, all grounded in a notion of self. However, true teaching transcends this. It should awaken understanding that these identities and practices are merely illusions. If you can grasp that what is being taught is not about a fixed self, that's a significant step. The goal is to awaken to our true nature, which is beyond all these constructs. Dharma is already present within the mind. Everything is fundamentally anatta or non-self. Nothing possesses true, independent existence. Everything arises because of thought. Our speech and perception exist due to the mind's activity. When we think, we create concepts and narratives that shape our reality. For example, in this moment, you may feel various emotions, perhaps excitement or determination. But I invite you to consider, who is experiencing these emotions? Who is it that is experiencing this? Is it truly us, or is it simply the nature of existence unfolding? Who is speaking right now? Who is listening at this moment? Who are they? Are they us, or are they nature? Contemplate this deeply and thoughtfully. Look at your fingers, look at your hands, look at this body. Has it ever said what it truly is? Does it belong to us, or is it simply nature? If it is truly us, then we should be able to command it not to age. Is that even possible? Can we forbid pain? Can we prevent death? Is it possible to prevent it from growing old? It can't communicate, can it? When it dreams on its own, just like every day we experience now. Can we really command it not to age? Can we stop it from growing any further? Can we wish for it to be beautiful or handsome? Can we convey that desire? Or do we need to find something to enhance it? Let's try adding more and more. We say if we do this, it will be beautiful, it will be handsome, it will be firm. Let's make an effort to do this regularly. So, we will end up in a hell of our own making. Why do I say this? Because it's me, my own self, the one who guards my identity. It's all about my face, my being, accumulating my sense of self. It's all ego. Buddhism teaches about anatta, the notion that nothing truly belongs to us, that there is no self or permanent entity. Yet we perceive everything as an individual identity. We toil endlessly just to afford a single meal. Our bodies crave that meal, yet we struggle for it, leading to conflicts, arguments, and even divorces over something as simple as food. One partner wants one dish, while the other wants something different, and these desires spark disputes. We compete and boast to acquire food, chasing wealth for that very purpose. Wars are fought over resources, not for noble causes. Why does this happen? Because our bodies are sources of suffering. Our minds, trapped within them, seek sustenance. This body demands only basic nourishment, yet we bring upon it things that age, hurt, and hasten its demise. In our striving, we claim to understand Dharma, thinking ourselves superior in wisdom, but that pursuit leads us to suffering. Dharma itself has no substance or self. Have you heard the phrase, Sappadhamma anatta? All phenomena are impermanent and devoid of a true self. This describes the essence of all things. There is no inherent self. Do you understand? Sappadhamma anatta ti. The Buddha teaches all beings to turn their minds back to realize their true nature, known as the original mind, or true nature. This essence already exists within us, fully present and awaiting discovery, and the Buddha serves as a guide to help us see it. For those who listen and understand, there are two paths to realization. The first method is to recognize that everything is a product of conditioning. Thoughts, emotions, and perceptions are all forms of mental formations, both internal and external. Whether they are physical formations or mental formations, none of these have any true independent existence. They are merely conventions that humans use to navigate the conventional world. This insight reveals that all phenomena are anatta, or non-self. They do not possess an intrinsic identity. They are not us, nor do they belong to anyone. This understanding encourages us to transcend the illusion of separateness and recognize the interconnectedness of all existence. The second method is to guide the mind back to its original nature by recognizing that this nature is empty. When one truly understands this emptiness, there is no need to focus on the conditioned formations. There is no need to analyze the qualities of impermanence, suffering, or non-self. Instead, one sees the true nature of liberation and understands it as such. When this realization occurs, ignorance, avidya, collapses, leading to the cessation of delusion and suffering. This path emphasizes a direct understanding of liberation, allowing one to transcend the distractions of the conditioned world. What has been said is intended for us to attain realization, not to highlight the speaker's eloquence or the superiority of the teachings. It's important to understand that all of this is about non-self. Anatta does not have true independent existence. Our minds are inherently pure and represent our true nature, which is already present within us. This purity awaits our discovery and recognition. The teachings of the Buddha can be distilled into a simple yet profound truth, symbolized by a single leaf held in his hand. Understanding just one leaf is sufficient. There's no need to grasp the entire forest. This teaching emphasizes that a single insight can encompass the whole of understanding. By focusing on the essence of the teaching, recognizing the nature of the mind and our inherent purity, we can unlock profound wisdom without getting lost in complexities. To grasp the nature of the mind, it is essential to realize that we do not need to complicate our understanding. Misconceptions about how the mind operates often lead us astray. A key instruction is to not do anything to the mind. This means refraining from forcing or manipulating our thoughts and emotions, as such actions can cloud our inherent nature. Instead, the focus should be on observation and awareness. By allowing the mind to be as it is, we can witness its natural clarity and purity. When we stop imposing our desires or judgments onto our mind, we reveal its true essence. This understanding leads to deeper insight into the nature of existence, ultimately fostering wisdom and liberation. The Buddha taught that the 5 aggregates, skandhas, are non-self, anatta. The 5 aggregates consist of the body, form, and mind. Feeling, vedana, includes sensations such as pain, pleasure, and discomfort. It encompasses all emotional experiences, both positive and negative, reflecting our responses to various stimuli. Perception, sanya, involves our ability to recognize and remember things. It includes what we remember, forget, get confused about, and overlook. It shapes how we interpret our experiences. Mental formations, sankhara, refer to our thoughts and mental conditioning. Consciousness, vijnana, is the aspect that is aware. It is the awareness that perceives things, such as when we recognize sounds. This is the part of us that is actively knowing and experiencing the present moment. The 5 aggregates are non-self, anatta. They do not possess a true independent essence. They are not us and do not belong to us. Instead, they are transient phenomena that arise and pass away, illustrating the nature of existence itself. The Buddha taught that we should recognize and understand suffering, dukkha. The Buddha taught that we should simply be aware of suffering without attachment or aversion. Suffering, dukkha, is understood as a conditioned state, often referred to as mental formations, sankhara. Suffering, dukkha, is often perceived in dualities, such as pleasure and pain, good and evil, merit and demerit, and various polarities in existence. These dualities represent extreme views and attachments. The nature of suffering and conditioned phenomena tends to lead us to these extremes, whether in concepts like heaven and hell, or in tangible elements like earth, water, and fire. All of these dualities represent extreme views. The Buddha taught the middle way, Majjhima Patipada, which is a balanced approach that avoids the extremes of indulgence and asceticism. The nature of the mind is originally pure and empty, akin to nirvana. When the mind is freed from its conditioned states, it returns to its original nature. This is similar to a bubble. When the bubble bursts, the emptiness inside becomes one with the emptiness outside. This unity is what is referred to as nirvana. It signifies the realization of the mind's inherent purity and the dissolution of all attachments and illusions. The sense of self arises from mental formations, sankhara, where the mind constantly thinks, feels, and perceives. These mental activities create the illusion of a distinct self. But where do these formations come from? They emerge from emptiness. just as the ripples of a bubble arise from its inherent nature. This is similar to water and waves. The waves are not separate from the water. They are simply the dynamic expression of it. The water is aware of the waves and their fluctuations, just as the mind is aware of its own thoughts and emotions. They are inseparable, reflecting the interconnectedness of all phenomena. Understanding this helps us see that the notion of a separate self is an illusion, allowing us to return to the original state of purity and emptiness. The mind is a natural state of awareness, an emptiness that knows without any conceptualization. Whenever there is a stimulus, it responds immediately, but it doesn't verbalize that knowledge. For example, if you tap your arm or leg with a stick, the awareness of that sensation arises instantly without needing to articulate it. This pure, non-verbal knowing reflects the inherent nature of the mind, which is aware and responsive to experiences without getting caught up in thoughts or labels. It highlights the simplicity and directness of awareness in its true form. The mind is a natural state of awareness, an emptiness that knows without any conceptualization. Whenever there is a stimulus, it responds immediately, but it doesn't verbalize that knowledge. For example, if you tap your arm or leg with a stick, the awareness of that sensation arises instantly without needing to articulate it. This pure, non-verbal knowing reflects the inherent nature of the mind, which is aware and responsive to experiences without getting caught up in thoughts or labels. It highlights the simplicity and directness of awareness in its true form. Simply observe the various phenomena as they are, recognizing that they belong to themselves, not to us and not our possessions. Ultimately, nothing exists in a permanent or concrete way. This understanding reveals that the mind is empty. It contains nothing inherently substantial. By realizing this emptiness, we can see that all experiences arise and pass away, emphasizing the transient nature of reality and the liberation that comes from detachment. The mind simply knows the nature of these mental formations and returns to its original emptiness. As it recognizes these formations, it begins to understand that they are just phenomena, temporary and not inherently belonging to us. This awareness reveals that they exist as they are, without any permanent essence. When the mind, which is empty by nature, understands the nature of these formations, it realizes they do not define a self or possess true existence. Everything is just as it is, existing in its own way until it ceases to be. This insight fosters a deep understanding that nothing belongs to us, reinforcing the realization of non-self and the impermanent nature of all things. The purpose of practicing the Dharma is to understand that you are the mind, which is inherently empty. There is no fixed self. The mind simply functions to know, and then returns to its original emptiness. When something interacts with the mind, it creates a sensation, but ultimately the mind remains empty. This realization leads to an understanding that all experiences are temporary and that at its core, there is only emptiness, free from attachment and the illusion of a permanent self. There is no permanent self in this world. The five aggregates are non-self, anatta. Both body and mind are without a fixed essence. The mind in its nature is also non-self. Everything arises from thought. Recognizing this helps to see that what we perceive as self is just a process of thinking, impermanent and constantly changing. The Buddha taught that we should recognize and be aware of suffering, dukkha, which arises and changes in every moment. This continuous manifestation illustrates the three characteristics of existence: impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. By observing these truths, all beings can come to see the reality of existence and gain insight into the nature of their experiences. This understanding leads to liberation from attachment and suffering, allowing one to realize the ultimate truth of life. Many beings in the world fail to see this truth, which is a source of deep compassion for the Buddha. He taught and shared his wisdom to help us understand reality as it is. This insight into the truth, seeing the nature of suffering and the impermanence of all things, allows us to awaken to reality and gain true understanding. Recognizing this truth is essential for overcoming ignorance and ultimately achieving liberation. Let us conclude here, wishing that all who have not yet realized the Dharma may do so swiftly and attain enlightenment. May everyone find clarity and understanding on their path. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.